fast Ferrari in the garage, and he did not want to leave the Ferrari in the garage. So talk about coming back to the script, because I know when you first started talking about the character and what she was going to be doing this time around, she goes to very different places in this one compared to the first one.
Yeah, it was, the first one was really light lifting. It was like a walk in the park compared to this one, Of course, having to go through real life moments, and then when he broached me about what the script would entail and what would rest on my shoulders, between Letitia and I, I just try to hear it easily. He doesn't he put a little pressure on. Not too, but it was like, it's really important that, when someone like repeats and repeats and repeats, you're like, okay, I hear you. Okay, stop now. But yeah, it was rare and great. It was bittersweet, happy, sad, moment.
There's some actors here, and I don't think anyone here, because I love that everyone stayed because they wanted to hear you talk about this role, which again is just a testament to what we all saw. But I know Ryan said, I said this to him, and I'll just say this, I'm just going to hope for a little justice for 1993. And if you know about what happened in 1993, I think we can go ahead and save this role. But as an actor with yourself, seeing a role like when you got to see it and when you got to approach it with what you had to do in this one, there's days and there's moments that you really relish, and there's moments that get you anxious. But I will say that opening shot at the UN, sitting behind there, our queen, letting the world know what she had given, that's a day that you circle on the call sheet, right?
That's one of the nerve-wracking days, because that was day one, actually. That was day one of filming and day one for me, and first time back and in this new location with a lot of other actors whose faces you weren't familiar with, and that you're driving the scene. I know Courtney, my husband, and I would talk about that. Sometimes when you're looking at a script, you get a sense that you got to you're driving it. You're driving the scene. You're the momentum. You're the energy. You have to, the trajectory of it. It's your input. You're not just, laid back and riding along in the passenger seat. And that was one of them. Between Richard Schiff and myself.
Yes, I the great Richard Schiff. That was the other thing. It's the incredible actors that Ryan can bring in, and there literally is no small part in this movie, because everyone, even Richard in that moment, gets to do what all of these actors are capable of doing. But that ensemble, this time around, for as much as Black women were in the forefront of everything that they did in Black Panther, Wakanda Forever took Black women to entirely new heights. And talk about that female ensemble. Yes. Because I do have to say, with Tenoch as that villain that keeps, he keeps ladies focused, let's just say. We might get lost in the wayside about the fact that this is literally a sisterhood we get to watch on display, and that was joined by Michaela Cole, but obviously Lupita and Denai and Letitia. But talk about how that group of women, that core group from the first one, coming back to this one, how you all bonded to sort of, again, bring the sisterhood to the forefront.
There were moments and opportunity, like, for instance, I've spoken and others have spoken, that before we even began, we all took a trip to South Carolina, to pay our respects at Chadwick's resting place. It was a beautiful, sunny, gorgeous day, and to spend time with a couple members of his family, his brother, and a nephew. So a number of us who were starting in that first scene, that first week, we were able, Marvel, the kind folks at Marvel flew us up. So that was very generous, very thoughtful, not something that you would expect at all, in this business of show. But it was just so human, so that bonded us also, because we knew what we were going to attempt to do. And sometimes when there's great loss and great tragedy, you just really have an opportunity to rise, to create, to love, to bond, and then every day on set, you get to the set, your dresser would come, the beautiful woman would come and dress you, make sure your Ruth would come through, make sure every detail was in order. So many eyes on you. Hannah Beachlight created this marvelous set, be it the aircraft carrier or the throne room, or or a city, an African city that we're walking through, or somewhere out in the woods with a burial place, where we're pouring the libation, pouring on the ground, and saying goodbye as a family, all dressed regally in white. So and then it poured down rain, torrential rain in the middle of this forest. And I was like, oh my gosh, we are on a time crunch. Do we have everything we need? And in hot Atlanta, in the rain, in the forest, the mosquitoes, or it's this microphone. But you just have to relax. Even then, you had to relax. And thankfully we got it, because I just couldn't imagine if we had to return, because literally we had so much ahead of us that we had to accomplish.
Yeah, and again, as I say to anyone with this film, I like to call it like the Simone Biles. No matter what you think of the incredible thing that you witnessed, just realize this is take two. This was not the original plan. Everything that you're all doing here, there was a different framework for the story. There were different beats that he wanted to take with these characters, and they really tragically had to start over. But when I've spoken to the cast, one thing you've all sort of remarked on is, for as horrible as the situation it was, you all found moments in that reality that translated into the beautiful fiction we saw on screen and helped. And I'm just curious, again, not to go too personally, if there was a moment for you. And Lupita said it the opposite. She said, sometimes it was the frustration that I had not been where my character is. Like, her character's very healed when we find her, and she was not. And then with other characters, when I talked to Letitia, she was the opposite. She said it helped me. Where were you with it? Was it a little bit of both?
I think it helped. I was probably more toward Letitia. I think when you get to a certain point in your life, with more years behind than ahead of you, you understand what life is about a little bit more, and these sort of things unfortunately began to happen with more frequency. Letitia's a young, vital, beautiful spirit. Having lost my father and my mother and my aunt who raised me, people I adore. It's unfortunately you've seen that, experienced that aspect of life, but but to be able to embrace others, to do what you love doing, to stand on the set with others, other creative people, strong individuals, brilliant, beautiful, and to go through the journey together and not in isolation. It was a real joy. And having worked with Chadwick in the first one, and literally sat this close to him every morning, getting ready and seeing, getting a sense of who he is on the set and seeing how hard he worked, and then years later, a couple of years later, knowing what he was holding on to, what he was fighting through, that there are no excuses, or compromises. This is to pay, honor and homage to him. You have to go through. You can't sit down. You can't lay down. You can't give up.
Thank you.